sort of summarize what we wanted, all of the features we wanted, where we're at, and then what the next steps are.
Okay.
Because I think the power balance is about to shift.
The power balance?
Yeah. Previously we were waiting for me. I think I'm caught up. And so I think we're stepping more into, you being able to do stuff for, we can start working on marketing assets and the website and stuff like that, because the plugin's actually worth talking about.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, do you want to catch me up on where we're at with the product? Then we can shift gears to what's next.
Yeah. So the good news is we had started with featured image, and I had jumped over, and featured image was had a nice walkthrough or a nice flow. Choose your image, choose your shape, do your cropping. There it is. I had added a bypass button, and then had started stubbing out settings so that you could build your own presets, we're calling them, your own shapes, basically, size, width, whatever. And then I had jumped over to media library because that was the other one that I really wanted, or the next one that I really wanted, again, as a non-Gutenberg user. And so had brought that up to speed. So it now, if you go into media library, there's now a second button at the top, is the choice we've made thus far. So if you go to library, yep, there's a critical error. Uh-oh. Is that we need to start using InstaWP.
Oh, this is just my.
Yeah, go to InstaWP and do it. Spin up a site. They really want. I mean, the product's amazing anyway. So you just launch, one click, love it. Oh, you reached your limit. Do it in incognito.
Okay.
Hackers. But they've actually offered us a test account for use InstaWP for this product for these kinds of demos. So, or you can do that.
Great, my passwords.
I've memorized it. I'm going to hack your account.
No kidding. Oh my God. Come on.
Seriously, just do incognito. You don't have to do any of this. There you go. Oh, but now you have to share that window. Nothing is easy. But anyway, yeah. So while you're setting that up, so media library, doing two things. One is cheeky buggers. Do you want me to just share? I can walk us through it.
Yeah.
Okay. How are they tracking cookies into incognito? That's they're being very sneaky, I think. Enter my name. I don't want to. One click login. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay, I'm in too.
Okay, well then go ahead.
Okay. I got the free account.
There you go.
You're hackers. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm here.
So magic login. There you go. And then plugins, add new, Crop Express. Crop of the Express. And this is something we need to start working on. There you go. Because we want to be first. So we'll have to start doing some testing on that. So did you notice we had 10 plus? Click on view details. We are up to over 10 active installs, 10 plus.
Oh, is that why you were showing me that? I was like, oh man, are you having a bad day? Because you showed me that like active installs. I was like, yeah, but they have these gaps and stuff. But what you were trying to say was the
we
plus.
are over 10. We finally made it over 10.
That's awesome.
So yeah. So if you go to, so there's now settings, Crop Express. I put in just a little placeholder welcome. And what we've got here is identical settings, but for all 3 instances of Crop Express, right? So you can crop your featured image in posts. You can crop, there's a block in Gutenberg, and then media library. So all of them are identical. So click on media library, because then we'll jump over to that. So you've got your presets. So all of the default ones you can turn on and off, and then you can add your own. And then down below are the sizes, and we just populate with some sensible defaults, basically. But you can say, make my image. Defaults shouldn't say max, so I need to fix that. But it's if you upload a square, it'll automatically generate an image that's 2000 by 2000. But if you upload a rectangle one way or the other, the wider side will be the maximum, and the smaller side will be the minimum.
Mm.
It took me a while to figure out what the heck they were talking about with mins, max, and defaults, but it's that. So we need some happy text there to explain that. And then, so if you go back up to the top portion of this page and turn off a couple of these, the 4 3s or something, whatever, and then hit save. And then if you go to media library or media in your menu, and if you click add new, it automatically throws you back to the media library, but with the Crop Express open, so that you're always using it, which could be an option that we give. And then, and if you go to media library and say add new, there's a new button at the top.
Okay. Can we go back for just 1 second? Because I want to make
Mhm.
sure I understand this so that I could give feedback and help people. So,
yeah, of course.
Okay. I think this is what tripped me up, and it's probably because I've got old school Adobe Photoshop in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But we're saying for all the image settings, like here is the preset ratios in a sense, but it's not just ratios. It's like circles. It's the preset what?
Sure. I've gone back and forth between shapes and sizes. So originally we were calling them sizes, but they're not really sizes because that's pixels. So shapes or preset aspect ratios is what they really are. I worry that people
aspect
don't
ratios.
Right. Like that's the most correct way to put it. But people don't think that way. Or like, again, using one of my clients, using my clients as an example. One of them this week, we kept going back and forth, unrelated to the plugin, obviously. We kept going back and forth where she's like, there's a bug about uploading an image. And I had it set so that they should upload 16:9 featured images. And she's like, yeah, but what if it's really tall? And I'm like, 16:9 is 16:9. And in her head, 16:9 and 9:16 are the same thing. And
Mm.
and that to me is like, one, we can do some education, but two, you know, people aren't aren't nerds like me and thinking about 16:9 and 9:16 and yada yada. So yeah, I definitely think some video or a video that explains what any of this stuff is. Like,
Mhm.
I maybe we've been taking that for granted, or now you and I on session 8 are, in it, so we totally get it, but users may not, that kind of thing.
Okay. Um, okay. Can we spend just a little time thinking about that?
Yeah, of course.
Because I saw this and I was like, man, I know you've got these incredibly smart thoughts about all this, but I was like, okay, I'm trying to get my head around it. But if I think maybe I just share what I think, and then
Yep.
you compare that, help me, because I don't know if my knowledge is ancient. Okay, so I need a photo for, or I know I'm going to want a photo, featured image, whatever that is. Okay. And then I go, okay, how wide is now featured image blows this out, but I go, how
Yep.
wide do I need the photo to be? Like for most of these, I think I'm just processing my way and then tell
Absolutely.
me.
Keep going.
So I go, okay, my constant pain in the butt with WordPress for years, anything like this,
Yep.
is you're constrained by column width mostly. Okay. Featured images like our post edit stuff, I hate it because it's like, I don't want post billboards on top of our posts. I want them to get to the post. Anyway, so thank you for letting me digress. Okay. So I go, I'm writing a post. I want an image for it. I either think featured type in like a big image that kind of sets the tone. But to me, I've always still gone like it's the post width.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like the featured image issue there because in themes, for instance, like I'll do an image because I would do want to set a tone, but then it ends up in the featured, and a lot of themes will pull that and it just looks wonky to me.
Yeah.
Like I haven't maybe thought about it correctly, but I go, I want an image and I default to width. Like
Mm-hmm.
how wide is, the newsletter or the blog post or the theme that I have. And then I kind of wanted to crop down to that specification appropriately
Mm-hmm.
for me. And sometimes I just go, I just want width, and I'll kind of adjust the height
Mm-hmm.
if I have a tool that lets me do that. Like I'm trying to think when I was cropping in Photoshop, I would set, maybe we could pull up photo. I don't have Photoshop, but I would go to their little cropping tool and go, I want it to be, what I would do, Cory, is I would previously go, it's, I don't know, 400 or 500 pixels is typically what I've locked in my memory somehow. Is like most column widths for posts are 400 to 500 pixels wide.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd go in Photoshop, I'd go to the crop tool, I'd have my image up, I'd go to the crop tool and I'd say 400, and I would leave the height open.
Mm-hmm.
And because, not every image does that, and then go, okay, crop and save.
Mm-hmm.
And then upload to WordPress. But again, I'm going to acknowledge, I don't even know if that's all probably the right workflow, but that's how I've done it.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. Like, one of my takeaways from that is that I think we're at a high level anyway. We're making the same point that people don't think about aspect ratios necessarily as aspect ratios, but and talking about, previously we've talked about consistency and that kind of thing, and making images appear correct for your theme. And so using featured image, something's popped into my head, which I think is a neat idea. Featured image. So using featured image specifically, it's like, how wide do you need it? How wide does your theme want your image to be? And then what aspect ratio do you want it to be? So it's like you go look at, and we could do a little video that's like, create a post, lorem ipsum post, add an image, even publish it privately, and then go look at the image and how it looks. And you right click on it. Like, we can give some instructions, but it's like, right click on it, how big is it rendering, and make your screen the biggest it can go. So it's like, your theme is a maximum of 1300 pixels wide, and currently your design says your images go full width. So 1300 is the number you want. So width 1300. And then we could do a little UI in here that's like, okay, here's a placeholder image, 1300 pixels wide. How much height do you want? That's your aspect ratio. So click on 16:9, right? And it's like, keep in mind, I mean, this is all education. Like, I'm not really sure how we get there, but but to say, like, keep in mind, on small screens, like, if you're going 1300 wide, you don't want to be, 1300 tall, and you really don't want to be 916, because then you're 2000 tall or whatever it is. And it's like, here's why. The reason is you don't want your reader to have to scroll and scroll and scroll before actually getting to your words, unless you do. But yeah, I think that's something that we're going to have to, education's too is a very grand word, but it's like, people don't think about it this much. Maybe, if they're a writer, then they've never thought about it. They just grabbed a photo, made it look cool, and uploaded, and never thought, other than like, do I want a circle or not a circle? Or I want a picture of a guy on a beach building a sandcastle, and I don't want the shark in the background, so I'm going to crop it.
So I wonder, are there websites, and I just happen to think of beginner because I know they do things really well, like the final product. See how they do, like, this technically is their featured image. Is there any other sites? I don't want to just hone in on this, but any other sites you think do a really good job of using photos in their blog posts that we could look at real quick? The reason why I say that is because final product is really kind of what we're selling. You know what I mean? Like, what they're trying to get to is, we had that extended talk where we said, it's somehow flavors up the content and kind of,
right.
Do you have anybody else you think of, like, that we could just kind of look and get some ideas real quick?
No, because I never go to blogs.
Okay. Let's use them real quick. So, see, like, I don't know if they've tagged this as a featured image, in WordPress, but you go, okay, from an SEO side, headline, great headline, music, and WordPress, two good things you're going to get. Then they've got enough text here. I mean, this is a great formula, WP Beginner,
Yeah.
Because they own all the WordPress search terms. Okay, so so intro, and then they give this nice little thing. So what are they doing here? They're restating the headline, and then providing something that looks kind of nice. Like, I think this adds value to the post, personally.
So go to Freemius. They always have good blog posts. Go to any of them. And so these, I think this to me is the more standard blog post format. Click on any article.
I like Zach.
Right. So big image. In this case, they have the headline over the image and then a blog post. And so I bet the background of Zach is the featured image.
Okay.
Entry header, entry thumbnail. Yeah, with a title overlay. And their image is 1600 by 500. So an aspect ratio of 16:5, 16/5.
So there's a lot here that I really like. Like this is a nice looking featured images. They're taking, they're really, I think this is going to be important for us if you'll indulge me for a second. Okay, so they've taken profile photos, easy. I don't know if they're creating this, like where are they getting, how are they doing all these? But it looks standard,
Right.
like there's the same character.
Their little robot is theirs, so they must have an illustrator who's creating them. But I bet some of this is probably just clip art. But somebody's taking the time to create these images.
Yeah.
Canva, Photoshop.
Yeah.
Some other editor.
Okay. Same here. Like probably find the source to do that. Cutting. These are like screenshots, which I think kind of might flow into your other project you were talking about. Right?
Ooh, here's another good example. Go to, I'm going to send it to you in Slack. What's your name again? Just kidding.
Bob.
So this is actually really, I just Googled for, baking blog or something, but this is actually really neat. So we're jumped right into a category, but look at the aspect ratio of these images. And if you click on any of them,
They're the same.
They're the same. And if you click through, they're actually using the featured image to the side of the title. So like here I see it twice. Go hit back once and click on the first one. There's like swirly brownies, which look very good. Yeah, click on that. So there's big brownie image. Scroll down a little and let's see if they use it again. I'm just curious. Yeah, so it does repeat. But you see it's the coincidentally I found a blog that has featured images that are taller than they are wide. Little unconventional, but again, in another example of a different layout, right? So you went to WP Beginner. They use it's horizontal and it's inline, so it's going to be smaller because it's in that with it's confined by that column. Go to Freemius, it's 1600. It's full width because they're using it the way I often think of a blog. They want a big image that takes up the full header. And then found a cooking blog that does taller rather than wider, which I was sort of including to just include, but coincidentally right away found a blog that does in fact do that. And so I think what we're really getting at is, again, it's the, you've selected a theme or you already have a theme. How are the images being shown? And so the let's pretend that Hummingbird High is an amateur blogger. And so they are new to WordPress. And so they install a theme and they start adding recipes. And they're just taking, like we've talked about, they're just taking photos off their phone. So they don't know, I think, to your point, they're like, I haven't put in any posts yet. I don't know how big I need my images. The theme seems to want such and such an aspect ratio, or I've read let's pretend they're even like nerdy enough to read the docs. Do the docs include any mention of here's how big you want your images, that kind of thing? And so, yeah, there's a need for, again, the most thorough process of like add a post, add a fake image, even temporarily, see how it renders, and then that's the information you want. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know that we can do that for them, because as we've shown, if you've got a blog if you've got a layout that doesn't label your featured image as a featured image, like I have no way of going and writing a little code that like goes and scrapes it and imports that and tries to import that information. So
what if we looked at okay, yes, that is all that stuff underneath all of this that someone would need to, if they're really going to do this at a high level, they need to understand all that stuff. Like really, what is your theme? I think for the premise for this free one could be like, if I just look at WP Beginner, the outcome is nice looking, scaled appropriate images. There's an SEO side to it, but like, how do you get somebody, and this is bigger than the plugin right now for sure, but you go, I think a huge win could be like, this makes it easier to get nice images that kind of break up your post and show specific things. And if I just go default, don't worry about themes so much, because those could be specific integrations. Like Cadence has an integration builder,
right,
specific for that. That could be all that paid stuff that we talked about.
Yeah.
But if we keep it the way it is now, which is it's either featured image, which for sure has the theme stuff that you were talking about, but you go in post. How do you create something like this? Is these sites we've seen are formulas, and I'm trying to think through how we can get through. The formula is an easy button to nice looking blog post with some images appropriately sized. Like I've long admired what WP Beginner does, because they've got this formula that works. Like, all this, every post, this is not a negative to me. Every post is a very defined formula.
Yep.
Screenshots are in here, they do have to create an image and then still get it in there. So that's part of their formula. Just like the baking site with the brownies, you were pulling apart the tech specs for how they do all that. And it seems like,
So
anchoring back in these presets is like, how do you just get somebody to, sorry, I'm probably getting a little lost in my own thoughts here, but
as long as you keep talking, you're good.
But you go like, when you get a product, or you buy a product, whatever, you're really buying whatever the result of it is. You're actually not buying the product. You're buying this outcome. And
when you buy a piece of software and fire it up, you start hacking away at it. Photoshop. You're create new. and it says here's some document sizes, but here's 1,000 by 1,000, a white canvas, and off you go. And then you're like, well, but I want to see my text options. I want to see. And so then you start playing with what menus to show or hide, or you start playing with, and that's when you dig in. Right. So, what would be great, and this is sort of what we've started with, is again, sensible presets. I'm calling them presets, preset aspect ratios. So if somebody doesn't go to the settings screen at all, they click featured image. They've got 6 predefined aspect ratios that, again, are sensible. And they've got, and they don't know anything about sizes, but we've put in some pretty industry standard, safe for mobile, safe for desktop, image size, min and max. So we might be pretty close to what you're talking about. And maybe 6 isn't the magic number. Maybe it should only be square, circle, and 16:9, and the other ones are extra. So maybe it's too many. We don't know that yet. But
well, you know what? I lost track a little bit of the settings page because this was intended for the agency. Like, I mean, you deliver, like one of our thesis here was you deliver a client project. This really, like, the intention for the settings was for those freelancers, web designers, agencies delivering products or delivering websites to clients. And then from that point, like, I was trying to reconcile the settings page with just being a user, but that wasn't our intention. Our intention was give those tools to scoot in the little bumpers on the bowling lane.
Right.
Like, that's what the agency does. Pull, hey, whatever theme framework we use, we know it's going to be 16:9, put the min max. And then when they do that stuff from the featured image and the user starts using it, it's already there. So we've taken this thought of like, this is for an agency to ship better guardrails for images for their client work. Yeah. So my question to you, I mean, you've set this up with the thought, I thought, as a developer. So like I'm not, but I go, your mindset was to put these tools settings in here for that technical person at the agency. Yeah. We delivered it. Make sure this is like, go through real quick and set these. And that was our intention for this. Yep. So as long as it speaks to I don't have to know it necessarily as a user, as long as the devs do. And if we check that box, I think we ship it and we start talking about what we try to do is give I'm rehearsing some of this for our copy. Is like, this is to give guardrails to your clients for their images. Take 30 seconds, before you deliver to client, and do these real quick. And then you'll put the little bumpers on the bowling alley for them. Yeah. And I think I want to, the only caveat or addition I want to add to what you just said is that let's not say dev, right? Because dev implies code. It's a scary thing to a lot of people. Whereas, in my mind, the word, there's never been a good word for the people who are WordPress pros who don't necessarily write code or write a lot of code or write custom plugins, right? So they're still experts. In my mind, at some time, 10 years ago, the word was that I was introduced was implementer. So it's like someone who implements WordPress and WordPress tools, but isn't a developer, right? But so to me, this is like somebody who doesn't write code, but is setting up a site for a client, installs their favorite theme, knows that the theme looks great with 16:9 images. And so they're the ones that are going to go in and tweak these settings. And so, yeah, and I think the analogy of there's nothing that says
there's really nothing that says you have to even touch that settings screen if 16:9 or circle meets your needs. And then but I agree, like the language could be a heck of a lot friendlier. And we need docs that explain it, right? And so that's where, like, I think you come in, and the kind of thinking that you're doing of, you know, the unknowledgeable, the as yet unknowledgeable user, you know. So on that little welcome screen on the settings page, it says, welcome, you know, watch a 60-second video that explains what the heck is going on here, with 10 seconds that explains, you know, why image size and shape is important in the simplest possible terms. And then the other thing that just occurred to me is actually that you kind of alluded to is, I don't remember how you put it, but the idea of these sort of preset, like I'm way down, I'm close to the metal, where I'm calling a preset, or when I say preset, I'm saying preset aspect ratio, but you actually kind of alluded to like a preset featured image or a preset something, right? And I realized that, like, again, what I've created, I think is a great, we're still on version 0.0.3. So I think it's appropriate. But and so, or what I'm saying, sorry, we have the cropper that is identical in 3 different places, right? Featured image, and the likelihood is what the assumption that we're going under, which I think is pretty safe, is you always, once you get rolling, you always want your featured image to be the same size and shape, so that all of your posts look consistent. And the same might not go for in post images, because you might want a smaller one shifted left or shifted right. You might want an infographic that's tall, and so you don't necessarily want to be confined. But here are some presets that, you know, look, we like, you know, getting a level deeper with design is you often want your images to be similar throughout a website, the same way you want fonts to be similar throughout a website. You want colors to be similar throughout a website. So, you know, in a perfect world, not that you shouldn't sometimes break the rules, but you often want, if your featured images are all 16:9, you know, design a design guideline might encourage you to have 16:9 images elsewhere. That's a little digression, but I think that's true. And then taking this even further, if you go to the media library, again, right now, for the sake of simplicity, I've got the same settings and the same UI applied to the media library. Upload a 16:9 image. But here I actually see a different, or I'm envisioning a different UI that says upload a featured image, which uses the settings from the featured images. But we could also include things like upload an image for Twitter, upload a, you know, and this is where a preset comes in, right? Upload, you know, a circle's a circle, but upload a, and this is, I think, what, going back to the little sticker mule menu that we were talking about, where there's sort of these predefined touch points. And so, yeah, so it's like you're in a post, you're writing a post. And we also, I think we are spending a lot of time, we are being very WordPressy, and it might be to our detriment. We are assuming anybody is actually writing a post. And I even saw a headline, I think this morning, that was like, should WordPress get rid of the blog? You know, it started as a blog, but should it actually get rid of the blog focus altogether, because most people are using it as a CMS and building pages more than posts, was the hypothesis. But anyway, you know, featured images still applies to pages. When you're writing a page, we say in post image, but in page image. So we're not thinking wrong, but thinking of WordPress as a CMS, you're like, you build a page, but then you also need an image for an OG image, open graph image for social. You might want to And this is where we were talking about, what you really need is an image cropper so that no image gets uploaded to WordPress incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's where I'm, again, we've sort of talked about it, and you kind of alluded to it a minute ago, is like within at least media library to have what kind of image do you want to upload? An image for Twitter. Okay, well, that needs to be this size, this shape. I want to upload a header for Facebook, or, it's like, I mean, these are bad examples because you'd upload those to Twitter or to Facebook. But it could also be, it doesn't even necessarily get saved to your media library. Crop an image for Twitter, download it, and now post it to Twitter. Crop an image for Facebook, now post it to Facebook. Do you want to also save this in your media library? And that's where we kind of end up taking over. It's like media library becomes Photoshop within WordPress.
Okay, now that's interesting.
What kind of image do you want to create today?
You said something that was really interesting to me, that stuck out, and it's like the CMS conversation. Is it just a CMS, or, do we? So I was trying to find this blog site to see how they did it, but you go like, but there are people that still use publishing. Their WordPress is their publishing tool. And I think of that like your clients, content journey clients, and they're using the blog side. And I go, that was a helpful distinguishing for me, is like, if you just using it as CMS, our image is going to be static, for instance, most cases. Like, you're not going to do a lot of image manipulation. You may initially, but we're turning over to people that are pushing the publish button. Like, you have a newspaper or a magazine client, for instance, they're in the business of publishing steady content. And that just made me think about the use case again. Is I still think the settings conversation is great, because a lot of these people are going to have agencies build the site because they need to do the publishing really fast. So we've given those tools the setting. Then I look over here. It's like, I went to Maass.com just to see how they used images. Sure. I went to
HubSpot.
I went to the bakery site. Oh, HubSpot. Yeah.
Since they're big on SEO, but they do a lot of content.
They're publishers. Which is really interesting and aligns with where WordPress is, Yeah. Okay, let me try to find. I think this is important. This isn't wasted, because it's we're drilling down closer to really crystallizing who. Okay, so let me just go back. Okay, so they're obviously using, this is probably HubSpot has their own thing, but like, they're using some image to draw some interest to the.
So up top, you've got 4.3. I'm going to keep nerding out about this, because it's like, this is what people aren't seeing. They're seeing, but not absorbing, right? Right. On that previous page, you had 4.3 images and square images. And then you drill down, and what would be, a primary image at the top, again, after the paragraph, looks like it's about 4.3. But I liked your WP beginner example. Same with HubSpot, is that they're essentially just putting images in line, and just like a magazine. So you're reading a magazine, and they might have a big pretty picture, but they're throughout an article, they'll have photos.
So like, good God. Okay.
Go to like rollingstone.com. Like go to a publisher. That's interesting.
Whoops.
Yeah. So those look like 4:3 images. And then some square images. If you scroll down a little. Interesting that this layout is almost identical to Huffington Post. Or not Huffington Post. The Atlantic. If you go to the Atlantic, it's almost identical. But anyway, there's another example. So like we get into actual news sites. So they've got, those look closer to like 16:9. Yeah, go back to Rolling Stone. I don't need to see Huffington Post homepage. That's too depressing. But click
Right.
click into any one of these stories, and here's a pretty typical layout. There's that featured image again, and then the story below it, and then but I bet they have images within. I guess this one's just a short story, but anyway, yeah.
You think this is 4:3?
It looks pretty close. I mean, I'm eyeballing it, but I guess close enough that if somebody who isn't Rolling Stone wanted to create their own website, they'd be like, okay, every time I insert an image into a story, I will use the 4:3. Like what I guess I never finished the description of the new version is we have settings and we also now have a block, a Gutenberg block.
Yeah, by the
So
way, you snuck that in on me.
yeah, so we now have, we're pretty close to like feature complete, right? So we have you can crop a featured image, you can crop a Gutenberg block, and you can crop images going into the media library. And so I think, again, we're focusing a lot on settings, but I think that there's a good chance that most people, your average person, will never need to go to those settings. The likelihood is that most will, so I called it cropped image because I think most people are going to look for image. So it says select an image to crop, and then here's our presets. And so I think what most people are going to do is they will choose 4:3. And then every time they do this again, they will choose 4:3. Like that's how most people use these kinds of tools. Like they do something once, or they learn, click, click, click. They don't necessarily think about optimizing their clicking. And so they'll just choose 4:3 every time if it looks good the first time.
So a question about the 4:3. So we've just said this is probably one of the 4:3 and 16:9. You already know this, but 4:3 was a lot on these sites. And that typically, like I'd look at beginner and all these others and I go, it's 4:3, like in the vicinity, right? So how did you determine what this width is?
So that is what's set by on the settings page. I'm not saying go there, but there are some common sense defaults. So it's at least 1,000 wide and it's less than 2,000 wide. So if you tried to upload something that was off of your phone, high res, 8,000 wide, it would bring it down to 2,000 or something. But you also, if you tried to upload just an emoji, it would make it bigger unless you said bypass.
I see. Okay. So the rationale, so we're picking 4:3 and then we've got these bigger bumpers. So like this, so this image is actually whatever the settings are, 1,000 wide. So it's technically bigger than it needs to be because of the settings. but that probably has advantages, I'm guessing, for I
Retina
don't know.
screen for responsive. Like I've actually built sites before that. So, when you think about responsive, and I know I'm deving out here, but
No, go for it.
you've generally responsive, you're thinking mobile phone, you're thinking tablet, and you're thinking desktop, right? And I've actually seen sites where on desktop we had multiple columns of content. So the images were a third of the total width of the site, which didn't go edge to edge on the screen. So an image was never more than like 800 wide. But then if you looked at it on tablet, it went to a one column view, images over text, and not multiple columns of content. And so suddenly it was 10,000, or it was 1,000 wide, or the size of my iPad here width, right? And so it actually went wider on mobile. And so a lot of people will be messing around building their website on their desktop computer or on their laptop, and then eventually they'll look at their phone or they'll look at their tablet to test it, and the images will actually go wider. And so it's not a bad thing to have an image that's, again, if it's compressed, which is a whole different conversation, and not, if it's not 4 megs and 8,000 pixels wide, it's okay that it's a little too big, because browsers will size things down, and better that than it's 800 and gets upsized to be 1,200, because that's when it looks bad.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm much more understanding this now, and it makes sense. Because it's okay to have like 1,000, whatever the default settings are.
Yeah.
Because you've got these benefits, but it's not like an 18 meg file.
Exactly.
But it's in the window of like being quality image, and you can set those differently if you want, like in the settings.
Yeah.
So that's great there.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I think right here, you've nailed it. Like we've got the Gutenberg block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, magician, how'd you get this done? Have you been working on this? I think you told me you were going to work.
No. We early days when you and I first started talking about this, I hired a couple of different developers, one who helped me out with featured image and one who helped me out with block. And they got me pretty close to the block working, but I hadn't wrapped my head around everything else that I've subsequently wrapped my head around by building it for featured images and building it for media library. So then when I went back and looked at what he did for the block, I was like, I literally copied the code from featured image. And so it took 45 minutes or something, because he had already done the tricky part. And I, again, have learned a lot more in the interim time. So yeah, it was too big of a lift early on, but coming back to it, it was almost easy. So yeah, for me, I want to see if I can, because again, I'm using the classic editor. I want to see if I can overwrite the featured image for that, and then we're pretty close to, I guess we need the media, like if you click on the add image button, in the classic text editor, there's a couple of little things, but they're not insignificant, but they are not like modern WordPress. So we're in pretty good shape. But yeah, I definitely would love your input, like things like, don't call them presets, call them preset aspect ratio, and start thinking about the happy text, the explanation text, do you upload one of your broken images again?
Yeah.
and docs and welcome text, and if we start talking about a little video for to put on that welcome screen, like that's where we're at, like starting to actually make this friendlier and more clear. I like your guy.
Okay, now I was just playing with that.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. I think this is a game changer. I think this right here could be the V1, like in this, that's where we started from a long time ago. We just weren't there. We needed some time and space to like be able, an opportunity, obviously, to do this. But like that right there hits my original, holy crap, can we have this? Can I have this? I want this thing. Because yeah, that's super cool. But now some more, I heard what you were saying is like more alt text. If I may though. So is the image is cropped right here, but there's white space. So is this, the block takes up the whole thing? So we can't do like right justified or something like that
Right. These are things we need to
work on. Okay.
add. Yeah. These are, and the truth is I need more real world usage and people telling me what they need for me to know what to add.
Okay.
I mean,
I think
the easy analogy is if you go add a regular image block. Yeah, good luck figuring it out because Gutenberg is confusing as heck. Not that I'm cynical. But you've already got alignment. What's the little triangle next to it?
oh, those filters.
So there's, like that's where, if people are using them, if they want them, we can start adding stuff like that. And this is where what we've talked about, like we can start messing around with other stuff if people want them, people need them. We're still currently at version 003. So
Okay. Man, you can get lost in these settings. They've added a lot of settings, it seems like. So would we be able to take, I think somewhere along the way you mentioned you looked at a current block and saw some opportunities here, but would these, taking this block with some of these things like the filter, would we be able to hook into that? I mean, essentially like fork.
Yeah, I think so. Or extend it basically. Yeah, see, there's your aspect ratios.
This must have got a big update, or I've never looked at it. Yeah.
And, and part of why it was, I loved your idea of doubling down on featured images is none of these are available and are not, at least as far as I know, and are not available in media library. But so maybe we should do a session where we like walk through these and dig in further.
Seriously. Wow. Okay. That's, yeah, I for sure need to do this because I had no idea.
People watching are going to be like, yeah, it's been there for 6 weeks.
Now that, oh, you have to upload the image first. Okay. Or you have to get the image. Sorry.
Yeah, I think
Mind if I keep?
I especially think the alignment stuff, because that to me is version one, right? Like you need an image, you need the image to behave the way you want. Shift
Yep.
left, shift right, whatever. And then getting into this kind of stuff is gravy and is a rabbit hole in a
Oh
good way.
yeah.
Like, we can start again. I like that we set up a request for feedback. It would be nice if we started getting people using it, because then they'd be like, oh, the default block has such and such 3.2. Why don't you have 3.2? And go, okay, so let's go add 3.2 as a default preset aspect ratio. And, or, hey, why doesn't the image shift left, or why can't I set widths? Okay, great. We'll go add that.
Hmm. Okay. Maybe I need to play with that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now, but standing out, you know what I like best that we don't have at the moment, but alignment, we've already talked about that. Having that's pretty cool because you can go over
Right.
here,
Exactly.
all that stuff. This is incredibly compelling to me because it's kind of your way, like, how themes do this with your color settings,
Mhm.
but having some, this is a pretty cool way to, like, this is just this boring image just done with a little filter.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call these filters? Duotone filters.
Yep.
The filters are really interesting to me because you can make it like, it's not going to be just another
Make it
stock
yours.
image. Yeah, you kind of
Sure.
make it yours. But I think now with the Gutenberg block, man, that's the feature. I could get us to more installs.
I agree. I don't know that I'd be curious why, that's not the right word, how the core team and 500 volunteers, etc., landed on Duotone rather than something else. Because it's, WordPress is at the whim of the people who are involved. So it's like, did they ask for this? Did they want this? Did somebody like me come along and go, oh, this is a neat thing, let's add it, and everybody was like, yeah, it's cool, we'll add it, or people using it, and that's of course the black box part of WordPress, is we will never have any idea whether people are actually using duotone filters, etc. I know that's a bit of a cynical approach, but it's like, I want to make sure that we are focused on, we want our own bumpers, because it's, this is the slippery slope that I often fall into. It's like, I trusted my gut when you were like, I need a circle, and I was like, yeah, we need a circle, but my gut doesn't jump when we say duotone filters, unless but unless we have compelling evidence that people are using them.
Yeah. Well, I think though the single block, the cropped image block could be really that ticker for getting those active installs. And now we need to switch to, I wanted to make sure we talked through that side because you surprised me with it. I saw it in there and I was waiting. I was like, no, let him talk about the settings. You're like, go down to featured image or whatever. And I was like, I really want to click on Gutenberg block, but I'll wait.
Well, and
I really,
the block, I think, will evolve unto itself. It'll have those settings, right? Because your media library, even your featured image, doesn't have left or right align. Like, that's up to your theme how it's being used. So the block will start to evolve with additional settings. Whatever, and again, my gut jumps. Yes, we need alignment for sure. You pointed it out yourself. You're like, I uploaded a Lego man and he's always aligned left. Like, that's useless. So immediately we need those We need alignment. And then I also want to start evolving the idea of, again, media library presets, meaning, what kind of image do you want to upload? And again, and I start to get really excited about the idea of images that aren't even stored in the library. You're going to, like, media library implies, or we are taught by WordPress, that this is where we store images for WordPress. But why isn't it just called media? And why isn't a place where you can go and edit an image and download it, and it has nothing to do with WordPress? And that's exactly the sticker mule conversation we had.
Mhm.
Like,
Utility
go to
tool.
media. Yeah, it's a utility to go to media, and it's not a media library, or it's not just a media library. It's a place where, you can edit an image and then download it. So it's like, you just created a post for, a new post about the brownies. The brownies image is already in there. Now you need to create an image for Twitter. You need to create an image for Facebook. You need to create a square image for Instagram. So jump into media, grab that image that's already in the media library, edit it a bunch of times, maybe put a title over it, download the result. Again, doesn't get uploaded to media library necessarily. And then now you go over to your socials, or go into Buffer, or whatever tool you use for scheduling your, multi-broadcast to all of your socials, and upload the appropriate image for each one.
Mm-hmm.
And that also diverges us from WordPress, which I think is important, especially now seeing the default image. Like you said, I didn't realize half that stuff was in there. And so we are starting to overlap with them, which I don't want to do. Like, what's the point? If it's built into core, I mean, our original thesis was, within media library, image cropping is awful. And I maintain that it still is. But if you can crop an image as quick as we can inside of a block, then maybe we don't need a block. What's our differentiator there? But image manipulation elsewhere within WordPress, like right now, I would absolutely argue that our featured image handler is better than the defaults. And same with media library still, because that's that original cropper that's awful. So these are the things that we need to balance.
Yeah. I mean, I still think the image block in Gutenberg, the crop tool, it's just, I don't even know how to use it.
Right. Yeah. I'm not necessarily saying we rip, I'm not going to go rip it out in version 004, but we don't need to recreate that which WordPress already does. That's silly.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, to be like, there are plugins out there that do core features better, and we can still do that, but the margin is thin. The margin of value that we add is thin if the features are already there. Whereas not jumping over, having to create a post, a story, a page in WordPress, and then jump over to Canva to create your social images, to me, the margin of value add is much larger.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I was just trying to think about, you look at like some of the sites we just looked at, and you go, there's a formula here for how to create a good image. And I would think like showing WP Beginner, for instance, they're going to need Canva or some photo editing graphic design software. But there's this case potentially for the output you want is something like I just went to Medium for a second and was kind of looking at a couple of the articles, because I go, high readability, beautiful design, very standard. And, I'm looking at all these posts here, and they all have, an image, And we know it would be better if you had the image. So I'm just kind of keeping thinking about what's the free value proposition, what's the paid value proposition on this, and what's our space for this. But I do think like here's one part. There's this image block within Gutenberg, and you go a lot of stuff. A lot of people have thought through those things, a lot of options. Most people won't even touch them. Just most people won't touch them because it's too deep of tools. But what are you really wanting? You want a post that looks nice, like attractive, and the images help supplement the story. So I'm just kind of think there with our angle, like we're here and just kind of continuing to look at what's our angle for all this until we kind of go, okay, I think this is it. Like we knew the agency settings case, we got that, we got the block, then we discovered this other thing. And I just keep trying to think through, like, if we can get enough of a pattern of people that have a problem, it'll really help us crystallize all this stuff, because you continually say, this is what I love working with awesome developers. We could do that. Oh, by the way, I already did it. Here it is. And now we've got enough ingredients. I think we need to nail that use case where.
Right. Yeah, we've got screwdrivers, we've got a hammer, we've now got the tool belt. What the hell are we going to build? Literally.
Exactly. We need a person. I wrote this down as you were talking. I was like, we need a person, the user in client, whatever that is. And what do they want? You go, I want it to speed it up, what I'm trying to do. Like if we just looked at, because for the publishing conversation, you're like, what do you really need? You need to be able to get your content. You're going to do the text. That's your thing. When you're looking for the images, you want something that kind of fits a formula, like the WP beginner formula, medium, Maass. I looked at Maass, the bakery site. You're like, that's a formula, a pattern for how to do content. So some of this comes into the finding, but like I go like that duotone use case, I'd go, why not make every image a duotone? It's just something different. You know what I mean? Like it's something unique. So I might think through, and where I go back to my past is I like to use templates for those things. So I'm trying to keep that in mind for our product, or what we're doing is the outcome they're trying to get is really something that, like, you look on Medium and you go, some people don't. By and large, this just really works. It looks like a clean site. The images are plussing the value of the content, which I don't ever do. We talked about the 4 3s, like that seems the standard in a lot of these posts. So I'm really thinking for that user, the publisher user, and trying to build that case for the product of what we're doing. Because like I think about the filters and I go, I told you we talked about my cartoon app. I'm like, now the problem when I write content is I don't have an image in mind. So finding an image is a pain in the butt. Like, let's put down, we have discovered a problem. It is finding, creating, sourcing images that are good is a big problem. We've just identified it's just a problem. We're over here. But like I go, if we had, it's like Instagram. I can I've got a camera in my pocket, carry with me all the time, my iPhone. It lets me take pictures. What did Instagram do? Make them look a little better, just a little bit better. And that's something in this where I think that this is what pulls me back to the duotone thing. Is it doesn't have to be duotone. It's just the aspect of, how do I look like it's not stock? Or
right. Well, and that's that's why AI is running rampant, is that people are like, I can now generate original art without paying for it or paying nominally for it that nobody else has over and over and over again. I mean, that's why people are over the moon. Obviously there's no substitute for hiring a photographer to take pictures of products, people, things like that. But if you need a abstract picture to just kind of add that compelling human visual element, you're like, generate a picture of, I'm writing a post about coffee, so generate a picture of a guy on a horse drinking a cup of coffee. I don't have to spend hours. The image will come to me and it'll be unique, and literally nobody else will have that. Whereas, the sites like stock image sites historically would charge you more. You could go buy an image. You could pay, 1,000 times more for them to take it off the site to guarantee that nobody else ever used it again.
Right.
That's not going to be an issue for much longer.
It's not, will it? Okay. So something you said, I wrote down here. I was like, nobody else has it. See, like we're looking at I'm going to share my screen again. Do you have a second to keep talking about this?
Let's go 10 more minutes.
Okay. So Rolling Stone, I don't have the design ability. I don't have the resources to create this thing. Now, with AI, is there that opportunity? That's really interesting, but that's a sidebar.
Yep.
But like, you think about this for now. When I look at this site, I go, this is thoughtful. Like, this is unique. It's interesting. Like this I didn't even read what this is, but I was like, it fits, the case. And because what you're trying to, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep talking about the use case here, is what you're trying to get is, back to beginner. Like, hey, nice site, nice, clean, clear site design. They're trying to get you to the content. So they're doing a great job with SEO here, with the intro, restating what the headline's about. Then they use the image, which I think is clever. Like, I don't like the featured image going outside of the post because it just feels out of whack for me. But I'm like, this is interesting. They have given an image that probably, this has SEO in it, I would guess. Look at this. They restated again the headline.
Yeah. Well, and that image is going to be usable for social, right? If picture that as a Facebook post, it says their headline right in it.
Okay. Now you got me something here. Okay. So may not go anywhere, but the social share side, you've done all of this work to create some kind of content, and that social share, like our stuff from post status, I hate it because it's not something we don't have set up right, but what you want is, I've just done this cool post here that hopefully is of interest to you, and you're using the image in social to pull somebody into it. It's kind of like this, almost like this. Well, or who is the Freemius? Where are they? There you go. Like, if you look at this from a social share standpoint, it's probably more interesting. Visually, you can kind of say, I see COVID and I see some kind of like weird things around it, right? But I go, it's something to do with COVID. Like, from a social share, that's pretty good. Like, that's what you'd want represented out on social. Is it's the product packaging to say there's something in here I want, and to go get it. We talked a little bit about that Yoast side, but man, all of that social sharing stuff is just a mess. Like, when I post I should do it here. When I post let me show you something if you have a second. If I go into Slack And I'm going to try to share this so you can see it. Okay, maybe this has been fixed. But this thing right here, this little snippet, that's now fixed. It's because I clicked the social share stuff. But see, like when you do any day now. Okay. Well, anyway, it doesn't look good. Like it's not. There you go.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So somehow this has attached to the homepage.
Right.
But the idea that you want is it represents that social share, whatever the image thing, whatever we titled it, featured image, or whatever it is, like that, whatever this, I don't know if it's GraphQL or whatever it's called, but what you're trying to do when you post that to social is show this effect of what like WP Beginner and different things done is like, here's something to show you what this post is about. That's an interesting angle, but I don't know where it goes from here, but like.
So like, here's a tool that I've been playing around with lately is, so Twitter has introduced cards the same way that Facebook a while ago introduced their open graph. So you come here and you plug in post status and you say preview card. Card preview has moved to Tweet Composer. Okay. But we can do tweet card preview. Banner bear. So if I plug in post status, they built their own preview. There you go. So like, that's what it's going to look like on social. And these are the tools, you know, that are becoming more and more prevalent. It's like, so in Yoast, using them as an example, and I think the other SEO plugins have this too, is you set your featured image and it will automatically suck in your featured image as the OG image, but you can also set a different one. And so you can go and so like, I actually wanted to do just what you said. Premius, and go to their blog and pick a blog post. And so like, this is, I'm breaking their site. So they've got an image in the background. This is text, you know, an H1 or whatever, but you know, Vova is so phenomenal with social media and stuff like that, that I bet if I take this URL and I plug it in here and I hit enter, that he's created, so he's created a custom image that is that same background image, but has his little photo in it, has a title, you know, and this is all one image that has been generated Canva somewhere, different from, you know, the title up here, whereas this is all actually HTML elements. But yeah, food for thought, and actually a conversation to take offline, is there are features here that overlap with other stuff that I've been working on. And so maybe we want to wrap it all in together, or maybe this is a different kind of like we keep talking around AI, but we're just not, that's not the product we're building this year, let's say, unless it's the only, unless we get to the point where it's the only thing we can build, right? And so maybe it's something like that, or maybe it's the direction that we're talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, now you got my mind rolling.
Yep. I gotta get going.
Okay.
I do think that we need bringing you way back down. I mean, and I'm not picking on you, both of us, like these are our conversations, but I think having you go through the plugin and just saying, look, this needs a little design, or this needs some intro text, or what the heck is the word preset mean, would take us pretty far. Because right now we do have a very developer friendly product. And so me going in and just changing some labels and things, if that makes it 20% more usable, which I think is true, then we're going to be better off. The other thing is the README needs updating now, because we have a block, we have featured images, we have media library, we have some basic settings.
Okay.
So let's, I think we're having, in a good way, we're having all of the different company meetings in one. We're having the executive level discussions, which are arguably way more fun, but we also need to be having the, low level dev conversations to make sure that we keep moving what we've got forward, in a practical sense.
Yep. Okay. Well, I've got down here, review the plugin. I'll do a video on that, walk through several things and just note stuff.
Hi, puppy. Your background changed. How did I take this long to even notice?
Yeah, I know, right? I got the fancy new sleeper sofa.
You look so respectable now.
Don't go that far yet. I do. I think I tell you what, I need a big poster right over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking respectable, man. What can you say?
I'm proud of you, buddy.
Thank you. And then I've got the README file too, to go back to.
Yeah, and I think,
is that for me?
Like we now have, README is you, or us. Like we did it together last time. We can do it again. I guess what I'm envisioning, right, is we're pretty close to feature complete, for something that's actually usable. Like I'm on the verge of actually installing this on my clients' websites. I've got it on some of my own because I'm willing to muddle through the things that were confusing or or not clear, or that's redundant, or not what I needed. Whereas now I'm like, okay, my clients have to upload a 16:9 featured image every day, and currently they have to go use a separate tool. I'm ready to install this plugin because it actually does what I need. And so I want to make sure that we are product complete. So dev builds the features, and then we as a team complete the product. And then frankly, we can sit on it for a long time and keep having more of these conversations, or, start from there. It's like we've built the dock out into the lake. And so then we can start dipping our toe in more, but we're out there, we're in the world, and other people can use the dock too. I feel like right now we've got the janky it's a wooden pallet floating on empty beer cans, and so we wouldn't allow our loved ones to go use it to get out into the lake. Yes, I'm running with this metaphor. We're close to having actually built a reasonable dock, that's safe enough for children to use, that kind of thing.
You're swimming with that metaphor. Sailing. All right. Thanks, man. Okay. Yeah. I've got my 2 marching items. Thanks for keeping us grounded. Let me float in the atmosphere a little bit. It really is for specific reasons, because I know when we go, got it, like right there. And some of that's validation, but just a little bit more clarity on who is going to value this, and is it the right thing for what they need? But okay. Thanks, dude. Thanks for jumping on today.
Yeah. All right.